Hey there, how's it going? Andrew here with a very different kind of video for you this time. I've started a podcast, and I call this podcast the Creative Endeavour. I've been so inspired by the questions and comments that you guys have been sending in regards to the business side of being an artist. But I must admit, I feel really ill-equipped to tackle some of these questions that you've been asking. I've got my own strategies for success and my own way of going about being an artist, and I've been able to make it so far, I'm glad to say. But there are so many different strategies at play when it comes to being a creative professional, and so many different examples of great artists out there who are crushing it in their own unique way. So I thought it'd be a fantastic idea to bring you some of these stories and share with you some of these fantastic examples of how to make it as an artist. It's been really inspiring hearing these individual stories. So I have a few of these episodes already recorded. I'm continuing to interview people as we speak to get more of this material to you. For our first episode, we have Cesar Santos. Now, what can I say about Cesar? Besides, I'm an absolute fan. I mean, he's such an amazing painter, but he also shares so much of his knowledge with us through his YouTube channel, and I really enjoy watching that as well. He goes into the philosophical side of being an artist and what really makes him tick. And I always find that I come away from some of those videos inspired and re-engaged in a different way. So if you want to find more of Cesar's work and check out what he's up to, then make sure you click on some of those links in the description down below. You'll see a link to his website, his Instagram page, and his fantastic YouTube channel. Now, you're watching the video version of this podcast. If you want to check out the audio version, I put those links in the description below. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, and Stitcher, so have a look for your favorite app down there so you can listen to the audio version if you'd like to do that, maybe while you're painting. Without further ado, here's Cesar Santos. I first heard about you, a while ago, obviously, and I've been following you on Instagram. I got to say right off the bat, I love what you're doing with your art, not just with what you have to say, but I was looking through your portfolio, and I was going, bloody hell, this guy can paint. I mean, not only has he got something to say, but he can paint. And I found myself almost, and I get this feeling rarely, but this feeling of intimidation. I'm almost ashamed to say that. Just going, damn, this guy has got it going on. And when I was looking at those portraits that you had, the combination of that kind of childlike, naive, crayon-drawn, hand-drawn, playful nature mixed with this almost hyper-realistic. I wouldn't call it photographic because it goes beyond a photograph. But
that series is a little photographic. It's true. Like it's a little contrast. Like I have some classically oriented art, but that series with the crayons, I was making a little photographic. So you're right.
It was stunning work. But I was looking at you sketching. I was following you on Instagram. Something came up on my feed, and you're drawing this portrait. And I'm like, I recognize that guy. And suddenly I realized, oh no, that's Jordan Peterson.
Oh,
and
man.
At that moment, while I'm going through my phone, I was taking a little break from painting, and I was listening to the audiobook 12 Rules for Life. I'm thinking, isn't this weird? That here's a couple of artists, we're both, kind of listening to the same thing. Tell me a little bit about how you
across the world, from very different places in the world.
Exactly right. I mean, look, we're both American, but I mean, I'm now probably a naturalized Kiwi. Been here for a little while now, but married one. So yeah, opposite side of the planet. And I just thought, isn't this funny? This is really cool. So how'd you come across? Let's talk a little bit about Jordan Peterson, because he's quite a polarizing figure. I have no idea why, but I'll just start off for anybody watching this or listening to this. If you're an artist, you want to get into art, you want to learn a little bit more about yourself, what makes you tick, what are the driving factors behind human behavior, you've got to look at this guy's work. But Cesar, tell me a little bit about how you came across Jordan Peterson's work and what it offers you as an artist.
Well, it's interesting that you said that he's polarizing and all that because I don't look at those aspects, you know.
Mm.
I love painting while listening to audiobooks or debates. So I'm constantly just playing stuff there that I don't really search too much for. Sometimes they just autoplay after, on YouTube. And I came across an interview and he was talking and I really liked what he was saying. So then I searched more, and then I just found his message so valuable for me because I love just thinking about the world and thinking about how can I improve my life and how can I be a better person. And that's what we are always should be striving for. And he's alive and he's giving these messages. So
Mm.
I just kept studying him, and I'm really thankful that he's alive and he's sharing his ideas. I mean, he's a professor that only people that have the luxury or the privilege to be in that university will have access to his teachings. He just became famous, 2 years ago or something like that, and that is because he says something problematic to the political, field, whatever, and he came out of the classrooms. But I'm so thankful. Even his first book was very intellectual, very hard to read for regular people. So I'm glad that the situation that we're living in forced a person like him to come out and bring his strength to anybody that can use it, not only students in that classroom in that sense. And so yeah, he's been my teacher in that sense. And the way I valued him is because he in a way is like an artist. Like he sees simple things and try to see the importance that how about let's say how story or anything can be related to the universe, and we are all part of that. So that's what really captivated me about his message. So even now, I look at my paintings or other people's paintings, and I try to see beyond that image in a forceful way. Like I try to see really how does that, what's the potential in there? Why is that there? So that's how I take him, and that's why I love him.
Mm. I think it was really interesting, and just to give a little background for people who are listening, going, well, why was he suddenly thrust into the spotlight? Without getting too political about it, because I know neither one of us want to go there, just in case. But one of
Oh,
the
sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
You know
please.
what's funny? I went to his Instagram page, and
Mm.
I'm one of the people that he's following.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
that's
brilliant.
hilarious.
How cool is
That's
that?
funny. That's pretty cool. I'm like, what? Wait a minute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, that's fantastic. Well, yeah. One of the things that kind of thrust him into the spotlight was this whole thing that's happening now with political correctness and gender pronouns. But thank goodness for the conflict. Thank goodness for the controversy, because it did thrust him out there for people to actually go, hang on, what is this guy saying? And I think that's really interesting, and something that I found as well with the new this new wave that's happening online. And it was actually something that Jordan Peterson said on a podcast with Joe Rogan. He said that this is the second printing press. What we have with YouTube and what we have with these new technologies and being able to share all of these ideas is a second printing press. We have this explosion of ideas. I now think, like, with so many people out there that are emailing me and asking me these questions, how do I be a better artist? Or, should I go to art school, for instance? I'm thinking, there has never been a better time to learn about art, to throw yourself into that and be a professional artist. There's never been a better time. I mean, we have so many things at our disposal. It might seem, doom and gloom in the worst of times, but at the same time, it's the best of times, and it's really something to embrace. And I think, I mean, I'm hoping you'll be able to tell us a little bit more about your own story and how you find yourself online. But for me personally, on a personal note, with YouTube, I kind of started teaching several years ago and was doing one-on-one workshops and that sort of thing. And as soon as I went on YouTube, it just exploded. Like this amazing wave of just people, strangers from around the planet, that are getting in touch, and the following that's building. And I think therein lies a real responsibility for myself. But how have you found your YouTube channel? How has it kind of changed you, shaped you, and made you focus more on your art, if it has? Tell me a little bit more about your experience online.
Yeah, and also I'm gonna tell you this about YouTube, that also, I mean, social media in general, but YouTube especially, because what's happening to us is the same thing that is happening with the Jordan Peterson case, and that is that in art, um, the the um, the establishment has a grip on art. The museums, the schools, and the gallery system, the curators, they all had that very controlled, and what is supposed to be good art and bad art, and they had the definition. And what happened is that through YouTube and through the free market, we were able to keep doing what we were doing, and those postmodernists changing art and their principles, the foundations for hundreds of years of art, and suddenly they broke from like scratch, and nobody outside of the art world realized what's happening, because all they did was get detached. So it's funny that now recently is when this big wave is coming. It's not only social media, it's not only YouTube, it's not only exposure, it's also a mentality that people are saying, oh wait, there is good art out there, but they're just trying to not show it. They're trying to suppress it. They're trying to filter too much. And also, I think that's what we are getting nowadays. We are in this, social. I mean, it's a very hard thing to describe. I'm not into literature. I'm really hard with words like that, like stuff. But the idea is that we are breaking away from that mafia-minded thing that I went through, because I went through college 4 years, and I felt I couldn't become an artist unless I did what they wanted me to do.
Yeah.
Even though they were claiming for freedom and they were claiming for be yourself, not really, because I wanted to be a classical, or kind of like, I wanted to offer beauty, and they didn't like that. So I'm so glad that in the political world, the same comments are happening, so that people can reflect and see the art, how we have been suppressed for not sharing the ideas of that establishment in the art world.
That's so interesting to hear you say that, because I too came through that world getting a fine arts degree, and I got my degree in Western Australia. And it was very early on. I mean, I went through 2001 to 2003. And I found that exactly 100%. These people seem to have a real death grip on the definitions. And if you didn't match those definitions, then it wasn't considered art. And one of the things that I struggled with early on, and I couldn't put it into words at the time, but something just wasn't fitting for me, and it didn't feel quite right. And that was, I'm going against the grain of who I am by stooping to this level and doing what they want me to do. And furthermore, I felt so self-conscious about this. Like, am I missing something here? Am I lacking the intelligence? It's like somebody says a joke, and maybe you just don't understand it. So, what? Can you explain that to me? I don't find it funny. It's a joke to me.
Yeah, like, am I an artist?
Yeah.
What am I?
Yeah. And then it dawned on me years later, and I wish it had happened to me while I was in that space. But years later, I realized what they were trying to do is go for something that was original. They were trying to be different. They were trying to be groundbreaking. And then I suddenly realized, well, that just doesn't interest me. What interests me is what's important to me. And if that's tradition, if that's technique, if that's something that is reliant on a skill set, then that's okay. Then that out of that came this realization, and I'm sure many others have had this, of it's not about originality, it's about authenticity. It's about what you personally are bringing out of you. And I was just, before we started this call, Cesar, I was just watching this this video that you had done, actually, just brushing up a little bit on my Santos. And I was looking at this video that you had, and you were at I think it was vlog number 30. No, actually, I'll tell you exactly what it was. I'll pull it up here.
The one inside the museum walking around?
No, this is vlog number 37, and you're at the LA Art Fair, or at some contemporary thing. And you were talking about, it's about authenticity, and it's about bringing out what's inside. And you said something where, I hope I'm not misquoting you here, something along the lines of, the most profound movements in art and the things that really stick and really matter are brought about by people who are authentic, who are bringing that voice out from it within. Tell us a little bit more about that and how that kind of relates to your work.
Yeah, because actually, what you mentioned before about the classes forcing, I mean, telling people to be original, I think that's a miss. That's what they're trying to say to catch the students. But actually, they don't want people to be original. They're telling them to fit in this mold, and they call that mold originality. But the mold is very specific, very well thought out for them to be able to market you however they want for their profit. Because individual artists that are coming out of those schools cannot make a living in the free market. I mean, I know many of these artists that go out and try to put their content in YouTube and nobody cares because it's like a fake idea that only survives within that environment of the classroom. So the teacher will select you, calling you original, and everybody has to buy it. Then he sells that originality to the curator, to the gallery owner, and then he sells it to the collector. So it's like a whole infrastructure that they have created so that they are the ones owning the art world, not the artist. And so I just wanted to correct that part because most people believe that that is called originality, and I think it's not at all. And it's what you were saying. The people that are really looking within and saying, I want to do this, that is original.
Yeah.
And even if they don't accept it, you know. And so before I go into that, like, I just wanted to make that clear because that's something
Sure.
that touched me when I was like
Well,
studying.
but before we go on, actually, because this reminds me of something that was a little bit of fun. I've got a little bit of a brain that's kind of open to conspiracies, and I saw something that I really enjoyed, which was that modern art was originally a conspiracy brought about by the CIA to destabilize
Yeah.
cultures. And as soon as I saw this talk, and it was a very convincing argument, I was like, wow, because for so many years, I was thinking, well, let's not attribute something to malevolence that can be explained with incompetence or, just a bad idea. I wonder how much of it, though, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, how much of it is a conscious decision to say, let's get a great big stick here and stir the crap. Let's do something here that goes against the grain of society. One of the things that I find so interesting is how this idea has infected modern day society and culture. For instance, you look at the public art space. A lot of the public now look at art and they go, well, I know nothing about art. I don't understand it. I have no idea what it's saying to me. And to me, that's such a crime because art should be for the people, for the masses, or at least it should be understandable. But what's happened is we've created this really esoteric kind of circle jerk of people that
Let me correct you there. I wouldn't say understandable. I would say appreciated.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Appreciate it. You want somebody who's got no background in art to be able to receive some sort of message, to just go, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, absolutely. Rather than go, we spent 1.5 million on a green cactus and what is that thing? What is that thing? My tax dollars went to that. No wonder they're upset.
Yeah, and there is something about it that is valuable, and that I think we cannot just say I'm against it completely. And that's why one of the reasons that I've been able to come across and be part of the art world as it plays out today is because I do embrace whatever I see that is valuable. And I think, for instance, that detachment exists, but there is also television, and that is an art form, it's a visual art form, and it's talking to the people. So in a way, to separate those two things, I think that it's always important to keep the art a little experimental, a little uncomfortable sometimes, or maybe talking about stuff that people have no idea, and then it happens after because you were honest. But it has to come from an honest point of view. But you always have to give a preference to the craziness, to the temperament, rather than the technique. Because otherwise, then the technique alone is television. There is no personality in it. There is no temperament. There is no risk taking. And that is our job to do. So if we become if we define art too much as if it was in the past about beauty, about telling stories that people understand, then it becomes close to television. And remember, the value of the artists that we value, Michelangelo, you name it, anybody, is because they changed the technique to fit their temperament, their genius, their craziness. So in a way, that has gone too much to the point that then technique doesn't matter. which is the thing that communicates to the viewer, and it's all craziness and temperament and attitude. And then that is also so detached. So there is something about it that I think we need to value, so we can separate ourselves from the commercial world of television or visual arts or everything else. So there is something experimental about it that we need to maintain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Let's get into some real meat and potatoes here, Cesar.
I know we haven't even, the first question you asked me, I haven't.
This is good. This is what it's all about, mate. This is what it's all about. I mean, when I originally started this thing, I wanted it to be a conversation and a discussion, and an exchange of ideas. That's what I find so fascinating. Hey, we can, so let's do it, and maybe people are going to be listening to this while they're painting, and they'll get something out of the conversation and maybe resonate with what we're saying. But I'd like to know a little bit more about, your career. And if you're happy talking about some details of how you make money from your art, this is something that I find fascinating, because I've never, since I was 21 years old, I've not held down any employment making money from any place else other than my art. And when I look at the system, of the way we educate children, and how they go through a high school system and then into a university, and they're channeled into this box-like career where they're constrained for a period of years, and then finally at the end of their employment, they're able to do something they enjoy. I always found that to be just really strange. I never computed, because I was just like, why would you not spend your most able years, doing something that you could be paid for, that you really enjoy? And I think a lot of people genuinely feel that they don't have that option or that choice. And when you suggest to them, hey, look, you do have that option, and that is a choice that is available to you, they get angry at you. They say, well, you don't understand how hard it is. You don't understand how bad I've got it. Yeah, easy for you. You were blessed with, this, that, and the other, and not honoring the struggle that you went through as an artist. So I see you as somebody who's obviously extremely successful. I have no idea how much you're paying yourself or anything like that, but you're there doing what you do, and you've got an impressive body of work behind you, and you just seem to continue to churn out these videos. Are you employed anywhere else other than through your own art, or how do you make it as an artist?
I never had any. I used to, when I was in high school in the summers, I would get a job, like regular job, but I never, after graduating from art, all I've done is making a living from my painting. So I'm super lucky, but I've worked hard, but we can get into that. I'm glad that you touched on something interesting about the educational, system, how it works and how it puts people together, and how when we share this stuff, and I wouldn't worry about the people that don't get it, because there is so many people out there that there has to be a variety of type of people. And I think they might be there. There's always one or a few that really gets it and sees the power, and that's our purpose, and we cannot be just like saving everybody. It's just, I'm glad that we are doing this, so anybody with a little bit of the intuition of thinking how we thought, then they can take it to a higher level, and that for me is like enough, but the funny thing is that I came from Cuba. Well, my family brought me when I was 12, escaping communism. And so my beginning was different. I had to have money always in my mind, because we were 4 in our family, and only my father had a career. He was a mechanic. And my mom never had a career, and my sister and I were young. I was 12. She was 5 years older than me. And so we came here, and my family said, you got to study. This is the way to do it. We're in America for this reason. We are sacrificing our present in Cuba a little bit just for you to have a better future, right? And amazing. That put a weight on me that I had to, at the moment, and they knew that I like art, so they were concerned about me liking something that might not be profitable.
Wow.
And they said, we did all this risk for you, and then you become a loser in society, and that's the brand that artists have. So then I was always forced to think how to make money from my art. And let's say when I was in high school, I used to, by the time I was graduating, I went to the office and I said, since I went to a magnet school and it was only they were only accepting students that had tendencies for art, architecture, design. And I offered myself to tutor anybody who couldn't get into the school but maybe wanted to fix their portfolio, or maybe, and then I said I can go to their houses and tutor them. And I was lucky enough to get a wealthy family to hire me so that I can train their kids to prepare a good portfolio so they can get accepted in that good school that I went to Dash. So since to go into that neighborhood, they had a gate. It was a gated community. And so I would get the pass. I would go in there, teach. And one day I said, since I can go in here, I'm going to get my cousin to help me. And I'm going to come with I used to drive my father's, it was on the weekend, so he wasn't working. So then I will get his truck and I will go in the neighborhood, and on top of the pickup truck, I will paint some of the houses. And then I will knock on the door and ask them if they wanted to buy the painting of their houses. And
that's a beautiful idea.
I was like $50, and I would come home with more money than my dad sometimes. And he's like, what? That's crazy. You got $100, painted 2 houses. Sometimes they said no, and I just kept the painting. But the funny thing is that one day there was a kid playing around outside, and in Cuba, everything is very wild. Everything is very open. Like, kids are just playing around. Nobody's like controlling you like here, that you're always inside or protected. And so I didn't think about that. I was 14 and with my cousin, and we saw these kids playing outside, and we put the truck and we painted. And then after we said, hey, can you call your parents or something? I want to show them the paintings. They run inside the house, and nobody came out, and we were just waiting, and the police came. So what happened was that they called the police on us because it was like suspicious. These people parked in front of a house asking for stuff, like, but so then we had to like raise our hands. They checked our stuff. They said, okay, go, you cannot do this in this neighborhood. What are you doing? Like, get out. So that was my last event.
Damn, Cesar.
So I'm just telling you that just to let you know that I always had in mind how to make money from my art, and that my art was always attached to the people's response, because I always realized that I didn't want to be a Van Gogh or a Picasso, in the sense that I don't want to fall into my own crazy world, that if I had one, I don't want to be involved into myself to the point that I wouldn't be a value to society around me, and so I always trusted the response from the people more than my initial intuition. Meaning, if I can become a better person, I think it's better to get signs from the outside world than from my own limited capacity,
Absolutely.
And yeah, so then I went to Italy to study classical art, and that was the breaking point. Like, as soon as I started seeing the world, the visual world in shapes, and I was able to control the tools to represent that, I said, wow, I have a tool that nobody has, at least in my school at that time. I was behind because we had computer stuff and a lot of graphic design, and I couldn't manage a computer. I didn't even have a computer when the internet, I was so behind in technology and about internet and all that for me, I was able to develop the craftsmanship at the hand,
That's fascinating. Yeah.
So that's how it started, So then after I came back from the Angel Academy, I said, okay, so the normal thing to do is to develop a series of works that you really enjoy, and that's it, present it to the galleries. So the first time I went to the gallery, I felt the intimidating atmosphere, the look on, are you an artist? Yeah, get out of here, type of thing, So I'm like, so the moment I saw that, I'm like, man, I need to figure out a way to be able to talk to these people, because I know they can make money from me. I had that feeling, I knew it. People were coming to my house and offering me money for it. But I always thought that a third person selling your art would be better. Not only because for me, it was more of a time-consuming thing. Like, I don't want to sell the paintings directly, because then you have to deal with that and then ship it and then be responsible for all the transaction. And all I wanted to do is paint. So I said, I need a third person and keep them happy. So I just try to see how I can talk to a gallery in a more direct way, get them outside of their pretentious bubble. So that's how I was able to get into my first 3 galleries. That after that, then I got requests from galleries to work with me, and then everything else got easier. But before, yeah, it was tough.
That's that's a great story. And again, I find it reflects a lot of my own experiences as well. Dealing with galleries and. But I've never had the cops called on me. That's that's quite cool.
Nothing wrong. We were doing nothing wrong, so we were
I know.
okay.
I know, but you could have been anything. I don't know if you had this menacing beard and all these tattoos at the time, but maybe that wouldn't have gone down too well. But hey, look, that's really interesting. A lot of people ask me as well about galleries, and I've been very vocal in the past, especially online, and to the point where I'm like, "Ooh, should I have said that about galleries? Did I just shoot myself in the foot?" In terms of my opportunity to work with a gallery potentially in the future. At the moment, I did have a couple of galleries working, for me. And I'll say for me because a lot of people don't actually understand from the outset. I mean, they go as an artist with their hat in hands, and they're very coy when they approach the gallery in the beginning. And they don't understand that what you're doing in that situation, yes, the gallery has to accept the fact that they're working with you. It is a partnership, so to speak, but essentially you're hiring them as your agent. So they're working for you as an agent for the sale of your artwork. And when I realized that, it suddenly made me feel a little bit more in control. But it also made it that much more difficult because I suddenly had this idea of self-worth, of what I felt I was worth. And I find now that the commission, I mean, a lot of people ask me about what is commission rate? What do you pay? I can't believe they're charging 50% or 60%. I won't work with anybody for, more than 1/3. I won't do it. I won't do it because I can't get past, like my paintings are quite expensive. I mean, I'm sure can find that online, but I can't get past the fact that I'd have to fork out that much for one of my paintings. I'm like, no, you want to work with me? It's 1/3. That's it. And so far, I've only gotten one gallery, and the rest of it, like I've got a waiting list. Like I'm selling out of my work, but and a lot of my work now I'm keeping because I don't have to sell it. But I find it very interesting. So tell me a little bit more about like how do you find that? Where does the balance? If you're comfortable answering that, where does the balance fit for you? Like what you don't have to mention the names of the galleries or anything. I'm sure people could find out, but I mean, tell us a little bit more about how the mechanics behind that relationship.
Yeah, well, I agree with you that the gallery works for you, but it depends on the situation. For instance, when I graduated from the Angel Academy, I had nothing. I had my talent and my paintings, but I had nothing to exploit that and make it, So I thought at that time I went to my first gallery and I actually I let the guy abuse the situation, because I knew at that time that he was working for me because he has built a business for so many years. People trust him. So in a way, he has become an artist of his own, like an artist of selling, an artist of marketing. And I had none of that. So I said, he needs, I want to do this, and he has the power to tell me what to do. So I knew that I couldn't say, you work for me, because actually he could say no.
Yeah.
So it depends on the moment and the situation and what you want to do. So I wouldn't say black and white, but yes, I understand.
No, I get it. I have a bad attitude.
Yeah. You're a rebel. I am sometimes, but yeah, for the business thing, maybe I knew that by myself, my art will be even less. So 50% with him included, it will be more than 100% of my prices and my ability to reach to collectors. Why is this low battery thing? Wait.
Uh-oh. Your video is cut out. We'll repeat that last question. Has it come back on? You all good?
Yeah, all good. I don't know because I put everything is connected, but it said low battery for some reason.
Okay.
9%. This is strange. Wait, let me make sure
Is
that
it
this
plugged
is
in at the
charging.
wall? Are you're on a tablet at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, it's an iPad. Let me
Okay.
let me make sure. Vale. Why is this saying 9% when in fact everything is connected?
Is this good?
Yeah, it's not. Okay, is that symbol charging? Sorry, man, my
You're
lack of.
fine, man. No, we got time. It's all good.
Yeah,
Do it,
I think it's charging.
Is that
There
charging
is,
now?
I don't understand. Now it is, but I don't know why.
Maybe put it like up there so it's not like pressure doing pressure. So that little symbol means that it's charging?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Dude, me with technology is terrible. I'm, I grind my way through it as well. This morning I spent an hour just going, why am I not online on Skype? What is going on? Pulling my hair out, going, do you have any idea who I'm about to talk to? Ah! I was turning green
it's
like
a
the
miracle
Hulk.
because all these things I see how useful they are, and I didn't study it, so I have no idea how they work. I'm like, I know how to work for me, but
Yeah.
so anyways, what was the last? What was the last thing?
Well,
So
maybe we'll get a clean take, but we were talking about and again I'll just say that this is really fascinating. There is a real, I must admit, there is a real selfish component to this podcast, because I am really connecting with other artists and borrowing their wisdom, and through hearing their stories, I'm finding that it's changing my own point of view. Like, I at least I recognized from the beginning, hey, I don't have this all figured out. Let's borrow the wisdom of others.
Yeah.
None of us do. We're all works in progress. But anybody who comes across, and I won't mention names, but there's one artist that I can think of more than anybody else who has come across as if they had their SHIT together totally.
I know more than one.
Yeah. But like that I met face to face, I'm like, whoa. It's just, you walk in and it just hits you just like a brick wall. You're like, whoa, man. Like there's nothing there. You can't explore. You can't share. You can't learn. You can't grow. You can't grow. Like the wise old what's the name of those characters in Avatar? She said, you can't fill a cup that's already full. It's cliche. But the wise old, you can't fill a cup that's already full. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm finding that personally this is really helping shape me and kind of making me realize that there are things that I could be doing better, absolutely, and could be working on more. But we were talking specifically about galleries and the relationship with galleries and what they have to offer in terms of a service. And I love what you said there. You were talking about, hey, I might be an artist, but the agent for the sale is an artist in their own right. They're an artist in selling, and they'll give me access to what they have to offer. So tell us. We'll go from there. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
They will talk about my art better than my family. They will talk about me, with great passion, because they want to make the sale and they want to show people the value that I offer that maybe even the artist cannot even transmit or project or for any reason. So I understood the power of having a third person that really know what he's doing about, with his side. I mean, the moment the gallery starts telling you, like, artistically guiding you, that's when I draw the line. And I would never accept that, because I said, no, we are working together. So you put your part and I put my part. The moment you don't like what I'm doing, we're not working. Like, that's the best compliment you can tell me if you don't like my art, because I mean, a gallerist. Because of that. So I saw at the beginning, I started very humble because I had no options. I was in an apartment with my parents, and I said, let me have a room so that I can create 7 paintings to show to a gallery, so they see that I have a constant body of work and that I'm, I can offer that. And it immediately worked. I started working with one of the best galleries. So my first year after school, I was already exhibiting in art fairs and among other famous artists in the same wall. And for me, I was so excited, and I thought I wanted to belong in that environment. And so I try to behave as less troublemaker as possible with the gallery. so that they would put me more and do more stuff. And I let them have bigger, I offer them a bigger percentage than the other artists, just because I knew that by them knowing it, not anybody else would know it, but by them knowing it, they would give me more exposure because they want to get a bigger profit, and they will have to pay it. So I thought that for me, that was the biggest, strategy at that time, to be able to make it as as long as it wasn't damaging. I knew how fast I was able to make a painting. I knew how much money it would be fair for me to receive, and that was my standard. And everything else after that, if they want to get more, good. Because the moment I left the gallery, the prices for my paintings were the ones that he was selling it for, not my percentage. So I immediately started getting way more money for every painting I sold after that. And so it depends on the stage. I realized that I was beginning, and I realized also that a lot of artists at the academy had their ego too high, and they were expecting all these prices and doing all this stuff, at the same time acting humble by saying that they're artists and they're sensitive. I'm like, you're kind of greedy in a way, because you're talking crap about the people that are abusing you, and you're trying to abuse people too, So then, I thought of it as a practical thing of survival, and I took it from my father being a mechanic, or the situation that I had, that I need to move out and have my own life. And I always thought that if I do what I love and I get paid enough to keep doing it, that is success. Because success is, for me, the freedom to do work that you're proud of, and that that was pretty much as simple as I took it.
Yeah, that's on that note. There was something that I've been struggling with for a while, and wanting to know the answer to for a while. And this is what caused me to throw myself into personal development. But you just touched on something there, because I was like, well, I want to be a successful artist. But then I was asking myself, well, what does that mean? And I realized if you don't define success, if you don't define what the goal looks like, you're never going to get there. You have to actually, you have to have some tangible, feasible, realistic, but at the same time ambitious enough goal that pulls you out of yourself to make you go beyond yourself and strive to achieve. And that when you get it, it just feels like, amazing. And that's something that I see in other people, and a little flash goes off for me. I'm like, wow, there's somebody who actually gets it, who's really doing it, and I find that very, very inspiring. But you're obviously somebody who's familiar with the work of Napoleon Hill, and we've talked about Jordan Peterson. But is goal setting something that's important to you, and writing down where you want your life to go, what you want your successful artistic career to look like, and putting that into a framework? Is that something that's important to you?
Yes, very important. That's all. That's why. And the power of Jordan Peterson is the term "fix your room" is what is success. Like, if you want to know if you want to be successful, just fix your room, fix your surroundings.
Hang on a second. I'm just going to check that I need to crop this image. All right, don't judge me by the mess of this room. I don't know. You can see a little bit of mess right here. That's okay. I'll take care of it.
I like it. I think it's nice. And you have a cool object on one side and a cool object on the other one. It's pretty balanced. The books are in the middle. Then you have a high. I think it's pretty good.
I'm in my office at the moment, and I share my office with my wife, and I'm by no means throwing her under the bus or saying she's messy. She's not. She cleans up after me all the time. But that one thing, where Jordan Peterson is like, clean your room. Don't try and change the world. Work on you first and clean your damn room. And I thought, absolutely. And if we were to walk through. I took
that as being successful from the beginning. Like, there's no place to be successful at. You have to be it in the moment. And that would just keep going and growing, because you keep looking for things that you can fix, simple things, and fix it first. And then you find other things. It's like making a painting. If you start painting and you see that something is wrong, you just don't ignore it and work on another area, because until you fix what you see clearly as wrong is when you see other things being wrong. And then that is what makes your painting become better. It's because you keep fixing all this stuff that are access, that you can do, instead of from the beginning saying, I need to do a Rembrandt. I need to do a masterpiece right now. No, you go step by step, and in your life too. So I relate my art to my life completely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing, mate. So, give us an example of some of the goals though that you have that you write down. What are some goals that you're trying to achieve right now? Where are you going with your career?
Well, there's different types of goals that I constantly have in mind, and there is one that is the goal of finding an expression that is legitimate to my situation.
Yeah.
I need to, that is my ultimate goal because I see it in people, I see it in some artists, and I'm like, man, they hit that note, and that's so tough. So we're distracted with everyday, happenings and life and stuff, and it's tough to really get your technique and your being connected. And that is my long-term goal. And as long as I have that, any small decision that will affect that, I say no to it. So, for instance, if they say, if I, well, I mean, I don't, and yeah, and smaller, just to make it clear, then I have shorter terms, which is let me experiment with what I have developed. So, since that was my bigger goal, then I do a series of works aiming at that, and to test it, I try to make it, I exhibit it, I put it out there in an environment that I respect to and see what people respond to it, to see if I am expressing myself with the right universal notes and that touches people. Because I think the only reason that we can influence others when we are honest is because everybody has something that everybody else has. And if you touch on that personally, people across the world are going to say, I recognize it, I want some of that. So then that's what I do. And then to create a body of work, then I need to get up and make each painting. So then I break it down to the point that if I get up and someone calls me and say, listen, we're here, there is a discount at thrift store, antique shop, whatever, come check it out. I always say, is that part of my goal for today to achieve what I want? No, I say no. Like that's for me, it's decision making all day and just focusing as much as I can. If you get a flat tire, you better fix your car. Like that's part of of life. But in general, I try to keep myself disciplined, working towards that bigger goal.
So, because it sounds like what you're talking about there is being fully integrated between, your technique and your practice and the actual work, the doing part and then the work. I'm trying to formulate that in my mind a little bit here, but where you're trying to, let me repeat that. I'm going to edit that out because that sounded horrible.
No,
but
not
but
at all.
it's okay. It sounds to me like you're taking this concept of the work, the technique, and really marrying that to the overall long-term, your artistic vision or quest, so to speak, of being totally, I'd call that totally in the zone, so to speak, because I recognize when I'm on track and when I'm not on track, when I'm painting for myself and I'm painting for somebody else. And ironically, one of the things that I found with YouTube and putting my work online and sharing the whole process and just like literally just taking the shackles off and just say, you want to know how I do it? Here's how I do it. I'm not saying it's the right way, that's just how I do it. The interesting part has been it's freed me up to start focusing more on the painting and not so much as the outcome as a result of painting this picture. Say, hey, when I paint this, I'm going to sell it and this is how much I'm going to get. I find that was one of the worst things for me artistically, is that I was never able to actually throw myself into, the work. And it's not about the paycheck. I mean, yes, it's important. We gotta be sensible about that. But once you've kind of made your decisions there and set your goals there, turn it away and forget about it. Just focus on the work. The rest will take care of itself. I didn't learn that until much later. Sorry.
No, yeah, I agree with that, and I would suggest, because what I do is that the selling of the piece and the paycheck, it cannot be part of the dialogue of your dialogue, but what they represent is so valuable. Meaning, if you do work and nobody buys it, right, or nobody likes it, that tells something about you, and you take it from there. Like either you want to be someone that nobody likes, But the important thing is that you need to, that's why it's hard to find the truth within you, because if you're confident, I'm sure that Van Gogh had that vision and he said, I'm not selling, but these people everybody's dumb, and I impose my honesty, I impose my vision, and that is so valuable. Yeah. But if you do that and also make sales, that's even better. That means that you hit that note with your surrounding. So there is a sensitive thing between painting to sell and not being attached to your own soul in that sense, or doing something that you really are connected to, and then if it sells, that means that they are getting it. So keep doing what you're doing because it's working for society. Like, people are enjoying your work. So I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is a fine line in every aspect of the creation and the selling of it. For me, for instance, I test stuff because I don't know nobody knows who they are really. Like, I don't really know who I am exactly. And to be able to find that out, I just have to look at who I was in the past. What I know exactly what I've been through, and I try to put that together in my art. So let's say, for instance, my series Syncretism came out of me saying, okay, I love copying artists. I love that. That's being honest. I love the idea of provoking, and I love the idea of expressing contemporary art and classical art because I study both worlds and I see the value in them. And I also like the idea of doing something that is so simple that nobody else has seen it. But as soon as they see it, they say, "Oh my God, why didn't I think of that? That's so dumb. That's so simple." And that's what I see in masterworks. That's what I see in painters that have hit that note. It's like, it looks simple, but at the same time, it's like, oh my God, brand new. So that is the fight within me in developing what I do. So and I had a mistake that not a mistake. That's part of life, but. When I was doing Syncretism, for me, it was tough to get it into the contemporary art world. I was accepted by Eleanor Edinger, and they had in New York a great variety of artists, but they all were trained, academically. And that was my option at that time. But I always wanted to be part of the bigger art world, and they were not liking those paintings because of whatever reason. So instead of me saying, okay, do I really want to do what? Like, I look at myself and I say, okay, what is my situation? I'm doing all this stuff for a certain, it's so strange. And actually, Jordan Peterson always said that you shouldn't even know what you're up to, because that's what art is. Art is beyond what you can control, and that is what makes it timeless. And people, all people following all the time, because even the artists didn't have control of it.
I want to come back to that idea because I love that idea. I do want to come back, so we'll just flag that. We'll come back and talk about that.
Yeah. So pretty much I've changed series from Syncretism to that you mentioned before with the crayons, and I was looking for a way to combine what I love with what I see that is being appreciated from me. I don't know if that's understandable. I mean.
Well, maybe we can unpack that a little bit because, when I look at those works, Syncretism, and then the newer works, with that childlike aspect, I mean, there's obviously a jump. I like how those, you can see where the newer works kind of start to come out, as you've explored this idea, you've followed through. I'm not sure if, by the way, I only know about this work from looking through your website extensively. But you can see that the idea kind of reached its natural conclusion, and then this other idea was born. But you can see there's a little bit of cross-fertilization of the idea there. one of the things, though, that I find really fascinating, and it's something that I've been playing with quite a bit recently, is that the things that happen to us, as children, our childhood and what we went through, I'm finding that those markers, those experiences or peak experiences, as somebody like Tony Robbins would say, it's a peak experience. It sticks out in your mind. It's the first time you saw the Grand Canyon. It's your first kiss. It's your first exhibition. These peak experiences of where you're just like, man, I will never forget that. Those are things that kind of come through. And a lot of the peak experiences that we have throughout our life are as we're children. Is that something, because when I look at those works, that's what I'm reading into it. Now, my interpretation of your work is obviously going to be very different than your interpretation, but that was something that I appreciated about it so much. It's like this childlike nature to ourselves is always there. And you've got these both worlds operating in the same time, the same space simultaneously. And when I looked at it, I honestly said, this is some of the freshest portraiture I've ever seen. And I'm saying that, I'm not just blowing smoke here, mate, because I was looking at it going, damn, that is not only is it a good idea, it looks good, and it's really triggering something in me. And for me, just talking in terms of what I think makes really important art, art that speaks to you on an emotional level, it's exceptionally well executed. It shows immense skill, and it has something to say. It's got an enormous emotional content. It can't just be, hey, that's really well done. We're seeing so much stuff on Instagram now that are great painters. It's all photographic. It looks fantastic. But I don't know if I can see another enormous headed portrait with somebody with honey dripping down their face or plaster or something. Like, I see the same paintings over and over again. I thought, oh, there's that guy again. Oh, no, wait, it's somebody else. There's something about your work. When I looked at it, I was like, original. Because I think you were being authentic in that moment, right?
Yeah, thanks for that. But for that series, and I don't want to get into too much because I want to add value to people that are working on their series. And maybe of course, they can refer to these comments and see how they can apply it. But for that series with the kids, I did a portrait of my mom and my dad, just without the crayons. And I never was the kid that did those scribbles. I never drew that badly as a kid, in the sense, I'm not that show up, but there are kids that know how to draw a little bit, and the moment they start drawing, they start doing something realistic, or they go beyond the stick figures idea. Yeah. So I never drew like that as a kid, and I wanted to create. And the moment I saw the portrait of my parents and the idea they had about art and stuff at the beginning, I started playing around. I got the crayon and I said, I'm gonna just vandalize my parents with me being the son, just playing around and adding stuff to them that I think it would add to their story. So my father was a welder, and I add the son and all these things, and then my mom was in the laundry, and I did also. So it was more like a playful attack on things. So then I saw the other portraits that I was creating, and I said, oh my God, I'm just gonna go and vandalize all this stuff. So it came up from that first thing of saying, I want to combine the worst expression visually by human, the stick figures with crayons, combine it with the highest way that I can paint and put it together, kind of like in a syncretism idea, but more personal. And so I did that for a while, but then after a while that got boring again. So then I'm like, okay, next to finding out more,
So you've actually have you got a show coming up? Did I see something on Instagram where you've got an exhibition that you're working towards in New York? Is that right?
That's going to be in LA.
In LA, sorry.
No, the funny thing is that I'm supposed to have a solo show in April in LA and in May in New York, but I have no paintings. I need to make them. So I probably postpone the one in New York for now.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll have a show in LA. And it's going to be with my syncretism. I'm thinking about calling it syncretism. And now when I went to see the space and the gallery, the space is so beautiful, that I said I need to do some bigger paintings. It felt like I wanted it to do it. Like the moment I saw the walls, I'm like, I can't believe it. I can do it. So then one of the pieces behind me is for that series. So I think those people that you were mentioning that had a formula and they create it and it's maybe they sales or whatever, that's fine for whoever wants to do that. But in a sense, I suggest that artists and, like you, we are always looking for things. Like, you cannot be in a comfortable way that even if you find something that works, I play with it and see how I can break it and make it more my own, because I'm changing constantly. Why not my art? So that's what keeps me motivated to paint and create.
One of the things that's really becoming, we touched on something earlier, and I want to go back to it because it was something that, as you were saying, Jordan Peterson was talking about, that your motivations for creation shouldn't even be known to you, or something along those lines, where this is not something that's conscious, but more something that's felt, something that just kind of just happens, and those spontaneous creations are often, I find within my own practice, they are some of the best, works that just come out. It's just this idea, and it's more, you're talking about a feeling rather than, okay, a tree goes on the left, and put the river here, and that feels balanced, kind of thing, and having this formulaic way of going. But that lightning bolt of inspiration, rather, that's the thing that we should be paying attention to. And I've found that recently that's something that I've been really trying to focus on, because I have this idea, by no means original, but this idea that ideas and thoughts are not necessarily your own. Where do they come from? Do you know? Nobody knows. How do we know? And to me, I look at it, and just from my own personal kind of spiritual bent towards things, I see them as almost a gift from God, in a way, where this thing is being given to you. It's not something that you have any ownership of, but it's something you have to look after. I hope this is kind of making sense. I'm still kind of unpacking that idea for myself. But I find that if I'm to give a real tangible example, I get those feelings when I'm out in the field, for instance, like climbing a mountain, which I do, or, walking through the forest. We got an amazing forest near us, where I'm like, the way the light's shining in this moment, like the sound, the way that stream's looking, and it's beyond just a painting, it's a feeling. It's just like, you have to do that. That's it. It's that kind of recognition. I also get it with people. My most successful portraits are the portraits of the people that did not ask to be painted. And that's something I do commissions for portraits, but I must admit, I struggle with them a lot more than the ones where I just see somebody, I'm like, wait, I got to paint you. And I get the weirdest responses. They're like, some kind of freak, no, here's my website, this is what I do, I got to paint you. You just look amazing, So it's something that I'm starting to pay a lot more attention to now. That might be a little off topic, but I just wanted to go back to that because I was like, again, I feel like you and me are kind of on the same wavelength in a lot of ways, but I'm picking up a lot of what you're saying, and I might say back to what we were talking about earlier. I think you're causing me to reevaluate my career and my direction here a little bit. I really love your approach to things.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. You always have everybody has to go do that. And that's part of my attitude. It's like always testing stuff. Okay. But I think I would suggest to any of the listeners that they want to create art that has more power. First, analyze where you learn the technique, because the technique is the medium between you and the people. And that technique was not developed uniquely by you, even if people call themselves self-taught. Because there's no such thing, So once you have the technique, you have to know who taught it to you, who gave it to you, and how did they influence their technique that they showed you for you to mirror that, or you're representing stuff as the school taught you. Many times I see that. And first, as soon as you realize that, you are free, because then you know the tools and you know that you've been doing that because that's what they taught you. Like my first series after graduating from the academy was still lifes, because the last thing we did to graduate was 4 still lifes. So then I came up and I changed it up and I made it unique, but they were still lifes. And then as soon as I realized that I was influenced by the academy, I said, wait, let me see what I do. So my suggestion will be to see that and also see yourself, because you came from a different angle and then you met the academy, you met the technique, and then you develop from there. But if you keep looking at who you were, you can add it to the technique that you develop with the art, with the school, and that will get something new out there. Because I see so many creative people going to the academies and losing what they had before. They said, oh, my school before was stupid, it was all theory, I didn't like that. And then you block that completely because you like this other school better, and then you do whatever this school, instead of saying, okay, what did I like ballet? Did I like dancing? Do I like walking? Why don't you paint people's footsteps on rocks and walking down? Like, it's a weird thing. Like, you have to always constantly look at who you are, what you like, what you know, and because that's you. And the moment you combine that with a good technique, and I'm talking about good technique, not even in the sense of hey, it has to match Bouguereau's paintings or classical period or something. I meant good technique for your expression, for what you want to say, for the subject matter that you have been developing in your life. And for instance, I have an example that is very clear. And even that's why I share my technique with people, because I know that nobody can steal it. Nobody can get it the way I'm presenting it. I want people to learn how to paint so they can paint themselves. And if they try copying me, it's gonna be bad, because I know myself better than they know me. So they're not gonna even be able to copy my ideas, you know? So that's what I believe in, what you're doing to share. And a lot of people tell me, don't share stuff because that's your value. I'm like, no, my value is the unteachable, the uncontrollable thing, you know? So for instance, when I was in college, in the contemporary art training, I saw a guy. I insisted in doing portraits. I was mocked by everybody. People were telling me what the hell I was doing, whatever. But there was one guy, one teacher in another college, because I was at the New World School of the Arts, and it was part. The building was part of the Miami-Dade Community College. So this teacher from the community college saw my art, and he saw my sketchbooks at that time. I had sketchbooks always, and he said, I see your sketchbooks are way more artistic, more powerful than your paintings on canvas. Why don't you do this on your canvases? And I'm like, and then he showed me for the first time Stephen Assel and Nedrum, and they said how they were connected and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And just recently, when I was at the gallery that I saw the space and I had my show in mind, I thought to myself, I'm gonna do a big painting, and since I'm always looking for syncretic ideas, mixing opposite schools, opposite thoughts. That's my intuition. That's who I am. I love playing around and poking. So I'm gonna get my sketchbook idea, my pages, and I'm gonna make them humongous. So I'm gonna do the opposite of what they are. So I got my biggest canvas, and I made a head study of something I really like, really classical. I'm not looking for the modern, for the contemporary taste of making people straight on like I was doing with the crayons. That was more of a contemporary inclination, because I wanted to see if I could do that. That straight on, head first, hyper realistic. This time I said, no, I'm gonna have the same fun I have in my pages, but with a big canvas. And I've only done 2 pieces. I'm actually giving away my new series before developing it, but it doesn't matter because it's all about that. So now I'm thinking about working with that idea, and I'm like, oh my God, it took me from college in 2002 to here to understand what that teacher said one day. Like, that's incredible, you know?
What are some of the daily habits? What are some of the things that you engage in on a regular basis to ensure that you're dedicated, disciplined, you've got your nose to the grindstone, you are focused, you're engaged? What are some of those rituals?
Interesting. Well, the first ritual that I discovered that is one of the most helpful ones is to not spend money on things that are not necessary. Okay? I think that's one of the first things that I constantly have in my mind, because that will give me power to really use the money for the things that are necessary, and also to give me the room to be free of experimenting with ideas without having to need the money. So
Right.
the first thing I did, even as a strategy, like even if I did a lot of still lives at the beginning and I got the first paycheck, what I did with it was save it and then keep doing that. So saving money and having that backing you up is incredibly useful because
Let me just echo that for a second though, because artists have got the reputation for not only being notoriously flaky, but we're really terrible with money. Like, and generally speaking, and I'm glad you've got that demon whipped, because for me, early on, I'd get these, sellout exhibitions, and I'd be making a lot of money, like in my mid-20s, walking away from a sellout show, just going, and I had no idea what to do with it. So I just started just blowing the money, and I'd have no idea where it went. No idea where it went. And it wasn't until I started getting into personal development and started realizing I need to save. Wow, what a concept. At least 10%. But now for me, it's more like, well, it's over a third of whatever comes in. I'm just putting into the bank, and diversifying and doing things to make sure that it's kind of set up there for a rainy day. So that's amazing, and it's a great message for people also starting out. They're like, a lot of people are interested in the things they can buy and things they can have, but the most important thing is to sustain your practice, to make sure you can keep painting. Have that money set aside.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I came from Cuba. Communism gives you nothing, no information about making money. On the contrary, if you save, it's a bad idea because communism wants to keep you always looking for food and build and always busy doing necessary stuff, so you don't plan ahead, so you don't think about the things that they're doing to you. So that's one of the strategies. So actually, it's a public. I was even in Cuba. I was criticized for saving even $5 in my birthday. I will save it for the next year when they give me more. Then I have 10. Then I will have more power to buy stuff, and all my family will laugh at me. So I love the idea of always saving. But the funny thing is that since we're here, my first painting that I sold, I got $3,000, and with this gallery, and I didn't know everybody when I went to my family with my check, everybody was like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" Like, they've never seen that amount of money in a check like that, and we were like, okay, we need to think about this. So I always, of course, got feedback from my family on what to do with the money because I was young. I was 24. And I told, so I'm like, I'm going to take a risk, but I need to find this out. So I went to the gallery in the opening, and I met the guy that bought the painting. And I said, he met me, whatever. Oh, nice to meet you. Amazing work. Great. You're young. All this stuff. And I said to him, I want to ask you something with total transparency. I come from Cuba. My family's poor. I know that to know about money requires a different level, blah, blah, blah. I just gave something along these lines. And I said, if you were me and you get this check, what would you do with it, knowing my situation? So wow. I asked him that. And the guy was like, wow, that's funny. And I said, this is the first check I ever get, I'll be honest. And I want to know what you recommend to me so that I can keep it in mind for the future, because I admire people with money. I mean, I believe that they offer something so valuable that people want to pay them for it. And the payment is almost like a suggestion. Keep doing what you're doing because I'm going to buy more. Thank you. So that's how I saw the idea of making money. So I'm like, okay, so, and he said, save it. He asked me, do you need a car? And I said, actually, I do, because I'm living in my parents' apartment. And he said, okay, so buy a car with half of that money. Don't spend it on the car. Don't put it as a deposit thinking that no. Buy a car that will move you from point A to point B with half of that money. And the second half, if you can, just do it for necessary stuff. Never build like debt. Don't get into debt. So he said, that's what I recommend. And I'm like, okay, perfect. So
fantastic.
So, yeah, I learned a lot like that.
So if you had to name one influencer, one artist that you really admire and respect from the past, like an old master, who would it be and why?
It's interesting that I just see everybody as orchestrating something, like one thing. I see art as one thing moving along, and all these little people contributed in many ways. And I'm never comfortable answering a question like that, in the sense that I don't know who to, like, for specific, like, let's say I copy Williams Bouguereau more than any other artist, just because I look at his paintings and I'm like, blown away. I don't understand how he did it, and I'm trying to understand it. And so for him, for that case. But then I see Jerry Gold painting the heads of how do you pronounce it? Cadavers, like the dead people.
Oh, like cadavers, yeah.
Cadavers, yeah.
Yeah.
So he and painting the raft of the Medusa with such a energy that you can see that it's like it just matches. So I just love when the artist developed a system to communicate a specific idea with the subject matter that he represented. I mean, and I'm in love with that. But most of the time I miss the names of the artists, or it's very rare. Like, I admire almost everybody for their good things.
Right. Good answer, actually, because I struggle with that as well. But I do get people asking me that, and so that's something that I like to throw to other people.
How can you say Raphael or Michelangelo? It's impossible. One offers this beauty, the other ones offer a little bit of strength, and
Yeah, but my personal struggle is finding something to focus on. I was always told you need to focus on one thing, and my influences are from everywhere. Like, I love landscape, I love portraiture, I love still life. I mean, I'm doing all of it. And for me to choose one artist, it would have to be somebody maybe like a John Singer Sargent, who was, really amazing at just about everything that he put his brush to. He was a master of landscape, a master of portraits, a master of different mediums, from oils to watercolors, and his pencil sketches are amazing. They're divine. There's something incredible to look at. I mean, that guy, he could make a two-dimensional surface talk to you.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a master at handling paint. Like, oh my God,
Yeah. Well, that's a good answer to a silly question. What's some other stuff that maybe you want to talk about? I mean, let's say you're let's ask this. I got a lot of young people listening to this right now. People that are in primary school, they're like, oh, I want to be an artist when I grow up. People that are in high school, they're about to go into university or an art school. Even people that are just graduating college and they're about to, step off as a creative professional in some way. What's some advice, real practical, tangible advice that you would offer to somebody young who was just about to launch their career, or somebody that was thinking about being an artist? What's some things that you think are really important to think about?
Okay, the first thing that I would suggest is that for them to recognize. I mean, this is difficult for anybody to do. That's why it's always a mystery to answer this stuff. But I would go about recognizing what is most needed now to get to whatever they want to become. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you need to eat, go eat, and then think about the other stuff. Because if you're thinking about stuff and you're hungry, it's not gonna work. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
absolutely.
Yeah, so I see a lot of artists that I go to the academy, and they are thinking about becoming an amazing artist in the future, and they still don't know how to do something that the teacher asked them to do. So I believe that instead of, and since we are bombarded with information, it can be against us. It could confuse us, because it's like you said, you have to focus in one thing, and that thing should be yourself. You shouldn't focus in other outside things that influence that. You should be seeing yourself, your surrounding, literally your surroundings, and how they are influencing you. Are they taking your time? Are they helping you? And if you're in a class with a teacher, that's because you went to his class. That's his class, and he's teaching something that you find valuable. So don't fight it. Go and learn it. Take from him as much as you can, because if you start resisting even that teaching, you will already be losing. And one attitude that I had at the Angel Academy is that everybody would go and question the teachers. Why are you saying this? Why blah blah blah? And that's the attitude of today's young people. And I have that discipline from Cuba, which is something good that it gave me, is that admire and appreciate the people superior to you, and what if they do something that you don't know how to do, just focus on that. Maybe they're stupid in other areas, but don't judge them, don't cloud it, don't make it foggy just because you don't like some aspects of them. Whatever they have that is powerful, learn it from them and isolate it. And that's what I did at the Angel Academy the whole time. If they would tell me that's darker, that's either I saw why it's darker or I made it darker and see how it is better now. Because if there is a reason why he said that should be darker. And I would just do that automatically. And because that's the first step. I just wanted to learn how to paint. So my advice would be to not worry about the world through the phone. Let's say now we have a phone, and that's a good maybe analogy to make, because I see everybody stressed out about things that they have no contact with.
Yeah,
you know what
no
I'm saying?
control over.
Yeah, it's always outside of themselves and their surroundings.
That's right.
So I would recommend everybody to do what Jordan Peterson says. Clean your room, and when it's clean, put things in order. Step by step. It's clear. It's more simple than people think. When people ask me, "Oh my God, how you did it?" I'm like, "How are you not doing it?" Like that's just it's simple. And be patient too, because everybody wants to have everything so fast now. And art has a value because of its development in time. Like you cannot, if you really want something of value, you have to know what type of thing it is. Maybe, in terms of art, you have to give it time. There's no way I'm still finding out. People ask me questions and I said, I cannot do that right now because I don't even know exactly what it means. And it's true. It takes time. We're young. I'm 35. Artists that I admire are way older. So we have time to develop and get better.
Yeah.
And I think that is one thing that we're not valuing anymore. We want everything fast, and everything has to be with problematic, and everything has a negative side. No, not if you want it to be. Like, if you want it to be positive, it is positive. Like, it depends. Unless you're suffering in pain, that's a problem, and that you should take care of that at the moment. But if you're in no physical pain, and if you have food and water, just look at the next thing that is normal. Like, it's tough to say it, but
yeah, you bring in a very interesting perspective to this. Again, with your background of coming from Cuba and getting out of that situation, and then having new opportunities. There are a lot of people out there that actually will be listening to this that are in the third world and feel trapped and want to be an artist. And this is a real tough one. I do not have an answer to this. I am ashamed to say that for the most part, I try to give people my time and my attention, but there's very little that I can say that I feel, equipped to say beyond just, well, best of luck with that. I had a guy from, I think it was Nairobi, and he was sending me pictures on Instagram from his village, and he just said, I'm learning from you. And I was looking at what he was working with, and it was really rudimentary at best. Like, it was like, charcoal and a bit of wood, and he's just trying. And I even find myself getting a little bit choked up when I talk about this, thinking, thank God, why am I so lucky? It's not that I feel guilty for my success. I don't. But I do feel this overwhelming responsibility to give back to others, especially somebody like that guy sitting in his village, without anything.
But he's lucky too. Maybe he's happier than you, in the sense of
I don't mean to.
Yeah,
absolutely. And look, it's important not to project. Maybe he is happier. But look, the thing is that he was coming to me in this situation as, hey, I have no access to the materials you're talking about. And I want access. And it was being cut off, this feeling of being cut off, like you were striving for something and it's just like, you know what? Nope, not an option for you,
Yeah, no, but I didn't mean it like the way I meant that idea, because I don't believe, let's say I go to Cuba and I cry the whole time because I'm looking at the situation there when I went back to visit my family, and I was millimeters from being there and not being able to become who I am now. But I remember the time that I was in Cuba, like, it's the same. You're always with, I mean, the thing is that you can always compare yourself with higher and bigger things. Like, according to them, maybe someone, because I got a picture now that you said that from Africa. Someone was making a copy of one of my paintings, and they said, "Sir, I admire you so much," blah blah blah. And they were making and I also saw that, but I saw it. If I compare it to my situation, it's super sad. But if I compare my situation with the people that I admire and want, I'm sad. Like, they probably see me and say, "Damn," So there's always room to be sad or happy.
Sure.
So in a sense, what we're doing is great because we are talking from an honest point of view. We're not saying, "Look at me and this wall costs this." Like, we're not doing that. And I think if people really understand what we're saying, is that you as a human being, you have a value and you have a responsibility to be a better version of what you have, because we cannot do anything about who we are and how we came from. And if you do that, by default, you will become a better version of you, and that makes you proud of who you are becoming,
Yeah.
Because if you keep comparing yourself, there is always that sad feeling or that depressive moment. But if you said, "Wow, I was that yesterday and now I know more," I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty sure that kid painting in that village is the cool kid in the village.
Probably. He had a crowd around him. He did have a crowd around him.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, he probably has access to internet, or they give it to him, and that's a plus.
Yeah.
And maybe he has the charcoal and he's making stuff, and people want to pay him for it at that level. That is what it is.
Yeah,
Everybody should be within themselves. But it's true what you're saying. Like, and even the value that I think from what you're saying is that is even that gives us more room to be extremely happy of who we are and what we have.
Yeah.
And be so grateful. Every night I say, I'm so grateful. I just need good health. And I try my best to keep my health. And one of the rituals, since you asked me, was to go to the gym every day. Right. And keep myself, doing physical work with my whole body, because my body is carrying me, and I need to take care of it for it to take care of me. So we're like a trading,
Absolutely.
1 hour that I don't like. I enjoy working out, but I always tell people that don't like it as much, I say 1 hour, trade 1 hour of something that you don't like for your body to like it and get back to you and pay you back for that, in a bigger way. So
that's a really good way of looking at it, because I'm an obsessive exerciser, and there was a period of time, and you can probably even see this in my early videos, that I was quite into bodybuilding, but then I stopped and kind of opted for a more kind of vegetable based diet with lots of smoothies and juices, and I've gone now to working on running, kettlebells, and some calisthenics and that sort of thing. But I can't speak highly enough for exercise and the ability to just move your body, make the sacrifice. I hated it in the beginning, but then I found, that I was getting these results, and I just felt better. The main result was, it's not that I wanted big muscles or anything. I just wanted to feel better. That feeling of putting a heavy weight on your back and doing squats and putting the weight down. But the thing with exercise, though, the interesting trade-off mentally for me is it caused me to have this physical metaphor for life, and it ended up impacting positively my art career as well. It made me go, hang on, I can put that much weight on my back. I was afraid to do it. I lifted it. I did it. What else can I do?
Exactly.
And it caused me to go, well, no talking to galleries or asking for the sale or networking with clients or putting yourself out there. Nothing of that nature is as painful as legs day. That's the painful thing, and so when you can go through that,
it keeps your mind active, and it keeps you, I think I've heard so many. I'm not a scientist, but I've heard so many things about that intelligence starts to decline after a certain period, even like younger than us, and the exercise is the only thing that can save it, that keeps it high up there. So I mean, and also it's a luxury for me to be able to not exercise all day. For instance, if I tell my father to go to the gym, he will say, I don't want to say a bad word, but he'll say, F off, because
I'll beep that. It's fine.
um, because he's been the whole day doing stuff that is very tiring. He's been carrying stuff, and it's not exercises in the sense of repetition for a muscle to develop.
Yeah.
But he's exhausted, and in a way, I'm glad that I am able to paint in a very calm, resting kind of. I mean, it's walking back and forth, but nothing compared to what my dad does all day long.
Yeah.
And then I can go to the gym and feel that connection with my body that is missing. That if I was in Cuba, I had to carry buckets of water to be able to have water in the house. I had to do, lift stuff and climb up the steps, like so many things that are physically exhausting. And so in a way, it's a luxury to go to the gym. So people that say, I don't go to the gym, and they were sitting the whole day, wow, like you don't even like who you are or your life, because you have a body to do stuff, make it do it, because it needs it. Otherwise it will go, down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, exercise. Eat your vegetables and exercise.
Yeah.
So you look like a pretty healthy guy. You look like you don't really engage in much stuff like alcohol or smoking or drugs or anything like that. You're sharp, you're mentally, you're with it, you're focused. But something that I found really interesting is that, especially amongst my peers who were, artists as well, a few of them actually really got into drugs and alcohol. One of them, unfortunately, no longer with us. But I kind of vowed early on that I would never kind of get into that stuff, because I thought, damn, I could really lose myself down there. How do you feel about that? Like, what are your thoughts towards substances?
Well, and substances and food and all this stuff, I don't know if it's because I come from, I don't know if my background has to do with it. Of course, I mean, it must, but I don't consider it. I just do what I like, in that moment. Like normally, I don't drink because I never like the taste of alcohol, and sometimes I just drink socially, a couple of beers, but but only in those situations I enjoy doing all these bad things. I mean, I would never do like heavy drugs or anything like that. Because I don't want that to be, I don't want to make an error that will cost me, bigger things.
Yeah.
I don't think the trade for the fun part. I mean, and when they explain to me what the drugs do to them, I'm like, I think I'm feeling it even normally, I don't have to go to that to actually doing it to feel sensitive or see a painting move. Or
I find that I'm always on that edge myself as well, thinking my brain is pretty weird already without adding something to it to make it even weirder, that you're already seeing things in a very strange way. I was always worried it might unlock some door that I didn't want opened.
Yeah. No, and even with food, it's funny because my diet is kind of like a Cuban diet, which is rice, beans, and then potato or yuca roots, and it has vegetables in it. Some vegetables, not that much, but it has some lettuce, tomato, stuff like that, light, and then some meat too. But oh my God, this went off again.
It's all right.
It's funny because it's charging, but it's going down. Like we're spending more energy than what it's gaining. It's funny.
Oh, gee. Okay.
I'm at 4%, but that's fine. So let's say if I'm painting and it's 4 a.m. and I'm hungry, and the only thing open is McDonald's or something, I don't mind going and eating there because I find that my body is more complicated than the idea of eating something that is bad for you. I mean, it depends what is bad. And I mean, again, in Cuba, maybe the nutrition was natural, but I was malnourished. I mean, if you go to Cuba, you see the people, like the skin, their things, like they're not well nourished. I mean, yeah. Nutrition is not part of, so they're lacking in a lot of ways. And we always have to send vitamins and stuff like that to keep them healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, and then what, and maybe that I don't know, maybe that's a mindset that is not beneficial for me now. But if I see that I need to eat something, I don't see the bad parts that it has. I see the good things that it has, and I eat it. And then next day I'm gonna go to the gym. And as long as I see myself with energy, moving, I don't mind once in a while doing stuff that
Yeah.
most people would just call me crazy for doing it.
We all gotta have a cheat day now and again. How many hours do you work?
Oh,
What's your work week look like?
I'm working the whole time, man. I haven't gotten a vacation since I graduated from from uh, from school. And I mean, every time I travel is for work. Every time I do something is for my career. I don't enjoy
Wow.
anything else.
Yeah.
So I get up and I either, if I have to attend to emails or messages, I do that. And my phone is always with me, so I can always work with that. And at the same time, I can always paint or think about painting or create a video. I'm always doing it. As long as I'm awake, I'm doing it. And, we have 16 hours of work.
Wow. So you're working pretty much 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, sleeping 8, working 16. That sounds like a fair. Yeah,
Doesn't your wife need to go out now and again, and don't
that's
do you
part
get
of that's part of work.
it's part of work? You've worked,
Yeah.
you found the secret, my friend. You found the secret.
Yeah, no, that's part of work. You go out, you get, the stress come out, or like you get distracted, you see other things, you get ideas, you talk to your wife, you go. I mean, everything is, I mean, I don't mean working like painting 16 hours. I mean, focus, just being me, like thinking about my work. And there's a moment that your art becomes you, that there's no division, and that's
Mm.
why I don't have a studio even outside of my house. I love having lunch, looking at my paintings, talking to my wife.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting. That's something that I found as well too. Is that I'm not actually interested in having a studio outside the home, or at least on a separate property. I mean, I'm about to build another studio here on the piece of property that we own here in the South Island, but it's I couldn't imagine being that far away. I would have to live and breathe, my work. So that's really interesting. I mean, so you are the work of art. You're the work in progress. So every day you're waking, you're focused on. I love that. I think that's fantastic. I think it's
Yeah,
fantastic. I'm
and I. Oh, sorry,
No,
what?
no, you go on.
No, I was gonna say that another thing that I can suggest to artists is to try always new things, even and challenge the idea of being embarrassed. Like don't care for that, because the price you pay for uh, for not for not being embarrassed is too much for the price you will get, like for what you will gain if you try new stuff and you hit a right note. And so it's, for me it was easy math. As soon as I didn't care about the negative influences around me, unless they touch me, like if they really touch me, it means something more than an insult or a criticism.
Yeah.
It's something that I need to look at myself and see if I can make it better. So
Hmm.
that's why we need to stay in the lookout for the response from the people. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you need to, in your art, try new stuff. And at first, everybody is gonna not like it most of the time. I mean, at the beginning, because it's immature. You're trying, and but if you see that the response comes from the thing that you're creating being unusual, then that's a good response, because we all react to things that we are not comfortable with, that we don't know yet. And but that, so it depends on what the negative feedback is about. So I would suggest always be on the lookout for symbols, and see how you can manage to move the new things to a good thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's really, yeah, very, very interesting. Interesting points raised there. Hey, look, let's wrap this up. Sorry, I didn't. Do you have a rap for us, Caesar? I love the way you finish your YouTube videos. Look, let me just ask you though. What's new for you? You've got a fantastic YouTube channel. You're putting out constant amazing content. And I love that it's, mainly verbal, and you're talking to people, and you're talking more about the mental aspect behind being an artist and things that are important. What's new for you on your channel? What are some of the directions you're going in next?
So with my YouTube channel, I saw it as an opportunity to have fun. I love acting. I spent 4 years acting in theater and having an agent getting me commercials, so like little jobs here and there, soap operas. So I love the camera and I love talking to people, as you can tell maybe from my animated camera. But so I said, why not do a video? The only thing that was holding me back from a YouTube channel was a little bit of the time, but mainly the ignorance. I had no idea how to do a video, edit it, and I didn't want to get into that whole thing. So I'm so lucky that my wife liked it and she took on the job. She said, I'm going to learn how to edit. I'm going to learn how to do this. So in a couple of weeks, I had some people that knew what to do here, and they kind of like put the program in and show her how to work on it. And we practiced with my first videos, and we kept going like that. So it became more like a in-house project type of thing.
I mean, because on that, this is where my wife works, and she's doing the editing. So when people look at the videos, I mean, we're a team just like you guys, and when you can work with you, it's amazing. It's amazing to be able to do that. Very lucky.
And I realized that there are people like you out there teaching valuable stuff. I didn't want to do the same, in the sense I don't want to be overlapping with that, because I see that that's valuable. And I saw Prokopenko also teaching like the drawing aspect with the structure.
Stan Prokopenko,
there's a bunch of combination of artists out there sharing their knowledge. And I said, that's amazing. How can I have fun in a unique way for me? So since I like I think also it's important to talk about art. To bring ideas is as important as telling you how to make it.
Well, I certainly enjoy that aspect, and I love watching those videos, because I find I come away from your videos thinking about something in a different way, or taking on a new idea, and just kind of questioning. I think the main thing is to question the methods that you've adopted, maybe subconsciously or unconsciously, and go, why am I doing it that way? And I think that what you do for me is you get that ball rolling in my mind, and I find myself going, oh, right. It takes that unconscious stuff, makes it conscious, makes me think quite a bit more about that. So, Cesar, tell everybody out there where they can find you, where your website, Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of thing.
Well, if they can find me, my channel on YouTube is Cesar Santos. That's pretty much it. And on Instagram, again, Cesar Santos, or sometimes I write it Santos Says Art. But I think with Cesar Santos, it'll be more direct. And that's my website too, all that. I don't know what else to say up there, but
no,
they have my name correct. No, even when I look at my analytics and on my YouTube, I see that they search for my name in a really wrong way, but they find me most of the time.
Fantastic. Well,
anyways,
stay tuned and keep a lookout for everything else that Cesar's doing. Some amazing things on his YouTube channel, and I really, again, enjoy having the opportunity to talk to people like you and just bounce ideas around. I think it's an amazing opportunity that we have, and I certainly hope that people out there have gotten something out of this conversation.
Of course, and thank you, because people like you inspire me to open the YouTube the YouTube channel also. I was looking at you and I'm like, man, this is working. I like that. It can work. So thanks for the inspiration, and thanks for reaching out. I said yes immediately because I knew it was going to be an interesting conversation with you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, look, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much, Cesar, for being on the podcast. And I hope we have the opportunity to talk again soon.
We will.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.